What's up, guys? Today we are going to talk about Cyberpunk 2077 versus Deus Ex Mankind Divided. Which game is better? Now, Cyberpunk had a huge, rough, launch with all the glitches and stuff. It is being improved. Let's just say it's in the hospital right now and it's in recovery mode. Let's just put it like that. Cyberpunk 2077 just had a really rough launch. And with just a bunch of bugs and things to take away from the overall experience of the game. However, if we're gonna let's outlook all the glitches and stuff, and let's look: is the story better than Deus Ex, or is Deus Ex story better than Cyberpunk? So let's look at Cyberpunk's story first. Cyberpunk's story is pretty bland, considering that it was made by CD Projekt Red, who made Witcher 3 story, which is phenomenal. We look at Cyberpunk. And Cyberpunk's story is pretty basic. I mean, it's a really big letdown that even the life path that you choose doesn't really affect the story a whole lot. It just changes a couple of voice lines in the intro to the game. And the story is just isn't all that there. I wasn't really impressed. I was like, oh my gosh, the story's really dope. I was just kind of like, okay, this is cool, whatever. And moved on for my day. The characters also in the game aren't all that interesting either, except for Panam and Johnny Silverhand. Which, Johnny Silverhand, I would say, is a really interesting character, with the whole rock star terrorist thing, how he's really emotionally developed as well, or the whole, anger and depression stuff, which is really, really good for a character. And I would also say Panam, because Panam is also your love interest as Malvi. And not only that, though, it's pretty interesting with her relationships with the Aldecados and how she was with them and stuff. If I'm going to throw in another character, I'll also say Rogue, too, with Johnny Silverhand. Rogue was kind of interesting as well. Kind of, as I said, she was more of that, just that badass, oh, I could blow up things type of character, and it really wasn't that interesting. As Johnny Silverhand was. Now, Deus Ex, however, has a lot more of a different story. Like, it makes you think, it makes you, it gets the mind racing, right? Because you have to choose between, you don't have to choose, but, you have that opinion throughout the game with, like, the augments, if you want to be the augments, if you want to, just go with the mission and do the objective at hand, or, go against the augments because you don't trust them and you think the police are on the right. You have that side to pick, and yes, Cyberpunk does have that incorporated in the game with Johnny Silverhand and all, but I feel like Deus Ex has it where you get with the AIs and different quests, how it's incorporated in the game. It's just a lot better than in Cyberpunk, where it's just with Johnny Silverhand. And that's another thing too. The quests. Granted, the Cyberpunk has a bunch of quests, but only so much where I'm actually interested in. Let's be honest here. The quests in this game were really good at first. They were really interesting, but as you play the game, as you progress in it, it just kind of got like, okay, this is getting kind of repetitive, and you only find that the story side mission quests are more interesting. You also have the gigs, which, as I said, aren't really all that interesting. You kind of just kill person, get paid. And I'm going to make another Witcher thing here, too, is that Witcher 3's contracts. You have the whole, going after a long battle with a griffin, and you go in there, get your pay, and then, a guy says that the griffin wasn't that strong, so he's only going to pay you this much, so you threaten the guy. And then he gives you probably 100 coins to 50. In Cyberpunk, there is not, really none of that. It's more just like you're going through the people that give out the gigs, and that's really it. You don't really get to interact with the gig giver, I would say. There isn't really much of that. Yeah, there's some gigs where you're talking to other people, but for the most part, it's just kind of like, you help save John from the Maelstrom gang, and you bring him back. That's kind of like what a bunch of the gigs were. However, in Deus Ex, it has not as many quests, but the quests are, I would say, because there's no need for them, right? There in Deus Ex, the quests are just a lot really good. The side quests are really good. You know, just a bunch of, like, not a bunch of them, but you know, they're few but really good. As I said, it gets a mind running. It gets, you know, it's very twisty, turny. You think one guy did something, but it ends up being another guy, type of thing. You know, and it's really cool. And Cyberpunk, as I said, has done that. You know, has it in their game in like the very beginning, but after that it just loses the light. So I would kind of just give the quests almost like a tie here, because you know, it kind of varies out. If we're going to look at the good quests in Cyberpunk, it kind of matches to the good, you know, basically the quests in Deus Ex. However, the characters, though, I was saying Deus Ex are a lot more better than Cyberpunk. You know, as I said before, the only interesting characters are Johnny Silverhand and Pan Am. And Deus Ex, you know, tons of characters are interesting in that game. You know, like full of character, and you know, you want to get to know them, who this person is and stuff. Granted, a lot of it comes from Human Revolution. You know, they kind of explain it, but you know, just normal side quests are, you know, the characters are like interesting, and they're really interesting. I would say a big downfall, well, not a big downfall, my bad, I would say a big con of this game is that it's really confusing, and you kind of have to play Human Revolution to fully understand this game. Yes, there's like a 20-minute recap on the game, but it's not, you kind of forget about the recap. I don't know if that was just me, but I kind of forgot about the recap, because there's so much in that recap to memorize, and then just get tossed in the game. And then, you know, characters and names are just being thrown around, and it sounds like gibberish. So I would say that if you understand what's going on, if you have a good, like, you know, if you understand it, I would say that Deus Ex is really good of the story. But if you don't, it gets kind of confusing, and then it kind of takes away from the story a little bit. As I said, if you don't know what's going on. The open world in Cyberpunk is huge. You know, it is, you have that whole Night City, which is just amazing to look at. In Deus Ex, you do have, Deus Ex, I would say, isn't really that great. You know, it takes place, you know, in like the Czech Republic, I think. And it's just all kind of like depressing towns. You do have, you know, that huge store, I forgot the name of that huge storage town place where all the augments are dumped in, basically, which is pretty cool, but it's kind of just like a strip. You're not really there for a while. But in Cyberpunk, you know, you have like, you know, the desert, and then you have you know, Night City, which is kind of like this whole colorful world thing, and it's so much to look at. It's so cool when it's at night. Of course, Night City, it is so cool to look at with all the different lights, all the colors. It is amazing. In Deus Ex, you do kind of get that a little bit, but not a lot. Like, the different homes and bases are pretty cool to like look at, but I would say, like, you know, the old, like, Prague and stuff like that isn't that interesting, and it's kind of just like whatever type of thing. Because it's just normal, like a normal bland city. Like, the city is pretty bland. Also, Cyberpunk's open world is more like an open world, you know, RPG, where you have different quests, whatever. This game doesn't really have like that. It's kind of just like, as I said, you know, you get a side mission tossed to you every now and then. But the world kind of just seems a little empty. There's not a whole lot to explore. I don't know if I missed a bunch. But, you know, I looked relatively well, and I just couldn't really, you know, find a whole lot to do in Prague and stuff. The combat in Cyberpunk is, I would say, better than Deus Ex. The combat, there's just a variety of guns and different builds to choose from. You know, if one thing I have to say about Cyberpunk is probably the combat, with all of these different sorts of builds and stuff, where you can have, you know, brute force, or, you know, you could hack people and send in viruses to them and, have it spread. In Deus Ex, there's not really any interesting builds. You kind of have, like, the additional, those super, abilities that you get that you find, but that's really about it. And it's really like, you can't really choose a build in that game. It's kind of just like you pick the ability and kind of go. You can sort of have a build, but definitely not like on the level of Cyberpunk, really, where you could just go for a full hacking build or something like that. And also the guns in Deus Ex aren't really like that good. I mean, not that good, but there isn't a whole lot of guns to choose from. It's kind of just like, I was using the assault rifle, shotgun, and the revolver like through 90% of the game. I got, a sniper and stuff, but that was really about it. And it's more of a story-driven game. I can, I could tell, but it would be nice if, there were, cool weapons and stuff, considering it's, more of a futuristic game. But that's not to say that combat's bad. It's just, it's whatever. However, both games, though, with combat share a similar thing with the non-lethal, lethal takedown. So if you want to go through a more, like, you don't want to kill everyone you see, well, you can go for a non-lethal takedown. So does Deus Ex has that as well. I would not be surprised if Cyberpunk was inspired by Deus Ex with that system. Considering Deus Ex came out in, like, I think 2016, I believe, rather than Cyberpunk came out in 2020. Now, a huge thing, as I said before, was probably the glitches in Cyberpunk, and if it's ever going to be fixed. Now, this is more just miscellaneous. This is like the miscellaneous section here. The glitches and bugs in Cyberpunk are just really bad, and honestly, it takes away from the experience. I can tolerate glitches up to a point, but when they're just really bad, it takes away from the experience of the game and of enjoying it, and especially a game that took almost a decade to come out. It wasn't like it wasn't that it wasn't that, I would say, interesting. It makes the game less interesting, to say the least, because it just, like, you have all this stuff, and then, like, have all this stuff happening, and then you're kind of like, oh, this is just stupid at this point. And I felt like I didn't really want to continue because of just all the glitches. I'm like, I can't really just sit down and get immersed into this game. I can't really say the same about Deus Ex. Deus Ex is pretty much with 0 to no bugs. I mean, you got stealth. Well, every stealth, game that has stealth is always, pretty buggy and, kind of wonky. But, that's really about it for Deus Ex. But Deus Ex's major issue, and I find it's a huge issue for Deus Ex, is probably the quest direction. I mean, I'll be following a marker, and I'll just be running around like a headless chicken, because the marker will say it's second floor, then it'll say it's bottom floor, then it'll say it's over here, over there, turn around, 360. It will have you running around on the whole city, and it's extremely annoying, frustrating too. That's a huge pet peeve in this game, and it just really pissed me off while playing it, because I thought I was going the right way, and then told me it was a building across, because the quest, it auto-corrects itself and stuff. It's really stupid and annoying. So, which game is better? I would say, I would give the crown to Deus Ex on this one. Deus Ex seems a lot more finished, a lot more, like, this goes to the saying quality over quantity. This is Deus Ex. Cyberpunk has significantly more than Deus Ex, but it's just the content isn't all that there. Rather than Deus Ex doesn't really have a whole lot. The story's relatively short, but the stories are significantly better, and the quests are significantly better. It makes the game really enjoyable too. Rather than Cyberpunk, where you can't really get immersed as much, as I said before. So I would definitely say that Deus Ex is a better game. You know, just as I said, it just seems a lot more finished, a lot more, you know, gets to, as I said, the mind racing, all that other stuff. I would say that Deus Ex is on top on here. That about wraps it up, though, guys. Thank you so much for watching. If you have anything, if you heard anything I missed, or feel free to put in the comment section below. Please make sure you like and subscribe. It only takes a couple seconds. It'll mean so much to me. But as I said, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll catch you guys later. See ya.